Hello, in this video I want to show you one of my favorite plugins, and it's completely free. And from what I can tell, not a lot of people know about this plugin. It's been my secret weapon for creating ambient sounds, pads, and it even helps me generate ideas as well. Now before we get into the video, just wanted to remind you that we have our brand new Ableton Live 12 electronic music production course. You can view the topics and preview some lessons in the link in the description below. Plus we also have 25% off all our online one-to-ones at the moment. Check those out as well. Anyway, let's get into it. So the plugin I want to talk about today is called Paul Stretch. Well, specifically it's called Paul X Stretch by Sonosaurus or Sonosaurus. And this plugin isn't the original Paul Stretch. This is just an updated new plugin version of that piece of software. And this plugin can basically stretch audio to ridiculous lengths. Very similar to time stretching, but it does it in a much more natural way. Now it's not really useful for your regular time stretching features. It's more of a creative time stretching tool. And if you haven't heard of this plugin, drop a like on the video, hit the subscribe button. It helps the channel out massively, and thank you for all of the support up until this point. But let's have a look at the plugin. So you can use the download link in the description below to download it from Sonosaurus's website. And the plugin's a little bit strange because when you first load it in, it actually loads in as an audio effect, which is a little bit odd. And when you load it onto a track with an instrument like this track here, it won't actually let any audio pass through it. You can see the audio is coming into the plugin on the left here, but it's not actually processing that audio or letting it pass through in any way. And that's because when we go into the user interface, we need to load in an audio file in this bottom section here. Now I've got this instrument loop here that's made using this feedback synth I have been developing, and quite a lot of reverb as well. Let's just have a listen. And I've converted that into an audio file here. And what we do, we'll open up the plugin and I'll drag and drop that audio file into the bottom, and it'll load it in like this. Now, in order to use the plugin, you need to hit the play button at the top here. So let's just press play. And at the moment, it's stretching the audio file by a factor of 2, so 2 times the length. But let's bump this stretch amount up quite a lot. And that's it. Thanks for watching the video. You don't need anything else. That just sounds perfect, doesn't it? No, but seriously, it sounds amazing. And as you can see, we can increase this stretch amount to ridiculous levels. And in the top right-hand corner, you'll actually notice how it says output length. And this is showing us the length of the stretched audio file. So originally, this audio file was about 22 seconds long. If we bring this all the way up, you can see it's actually measured in hours. So this is 6 hours, 4 minutes and 6 seconds. So that's what the audio file length would be at this stretched length. Now to use this, you can render out the audio file using this render button at the top here. And when you open this up, it'll say, where do you want to save this? Which you can click on here. It'll say what sample rate do you want it to be? What format do you want it to be? Bit depth. I'm going to probably choose 24-bit for this. Also number of loops, that's pretty dangerous. I probably wouldn't touch that if you're doing a lot of stretching. But then it also has this safety feature in here where it says max output duration, and it's actually measured in hours. But you can see it's set to 1 at the moment, and then you just hit render, it'd make a brand new audio file of that. An hour-long audio file of this will be very big. So just be careful when using that. I'll show you another way in which I like to use it though. First of all, let's talk about some of the other features. So on the right-hand side here, we've got this FFT size, and the way this works is the bigger the FFT size, the more smooth and natural the audio is going to sound. The lower it is, the more jittery, noisy and wobbly it will become. So if we just play our part here, And for some instruments, a lower FFT size will work better. For this kind of sound that we've got, this long pad without any drums or noise or percussion in the background, we can set this to be much higher. We've also got some pitch controls down here. We've got a frequency shift and a pitch shift, and they are both slightly different to each other. Pitch shifting is pitching the sample up and down in semitones. This frequency shift here will break the relationship between your harmonics because it basically does this kind of linear add in terms of frequencies to all the frequencies in your audio. The best way I can explain this, if we took a frequency of 100 hertz and a second harmonic of that frequency would be 200 hertz. Let's say we now pitch shift this sound up by 12 semitones. It's just going to double both of those frequencies. So 100 hertz will become 200 and the 200 hertz harmonic will become 400. So that relationship is still maintained because 200 is double that of 100. 400 is double that of 200 as well. But if we frequency shifted something, let's say we frequency shifted up by 50 hertz, the 100 hertz starting point will move up to 150 and the 200 harmonic will move up to 250. And the problem with that is that that relationship is now broken because 150 times by 2 is 300 and half of 250 is 125. So you see now they're not related to each other, and if you keep adding more and more, that relationship will get further and further apart. Let's just start by pitch shifting. I'll show you what it does. Let's now do some frequency shifting. Again, it still works really well and can sound really good for more cinematic sounds or some sound designy things, but it doesn't sound very musical. And the other thing that I'll use is down here, when you are playing our sample, we can click around it to move to different points. So press play. But there's loads of other stuff you can look at inside of here. But to be honest, this is just how I use it in this very simple state. So the way I'd go about using this, I'm going to make a new audio track, set the input to resampling, hit the record enable button on that track. I'm going to make sure I've got my Paul Stretch soloed, which is this one here, this track up here. And then I'm just going to hit record and I'm going to skim through the audio file and just find some chords that I like the sound of. Now we've got this big, long audio file. Let me just find some nice chords from within it. I like this one. I'm going to drag it onto a new track below. I like that one as well. And let's just make a chord sequence from these chords. Now, before I do anything, I'm going to turn warp off. Let's bring the tempo up a little bit. So I like these four actually in reverse order there. Let's just move these out the way. I will keep these just because it'll be useful for later. Whenever you're cutting these up, it's always useful just to add a little fade out at the beginning and the end, just so you don't get any pops or clicks. So I've got this kind of nice loop going on here. If I wanted to, I could turn warp back on, set the mode to complex and start to play with the pitch. Now, if you weren't too happy with one section here, we could use a nifty little key command. Hover over an audio file like this. It has to have like a lot of audio file still within the clip, and you hold Shift and Alt or Option, and you just click in the middle of the audio file, and you can just click and drag and move the cycle along. And if we add in a drum loop, a little bit sidechain, let's pitch this all up now as well, select everything. Add these hi-hats in, look at that big gap at the beginning, let's get rid of that. Add in a groove. And now a bass line. And you can see how you can create really interesting chord sequences. And you don't even have to create the sample yourself. It doesn't have to just be one instrument. You can basically just use any audio file you can think of. You can even try out drums. Drums are generally going to sound a little bit strange because you'll get like lots of doubling and bouncy drum effects, but try out loads of different audio samples. Just chuck them in there, stretch them out, resample them back in. You'll find you can generate loads of really interesting ideas. Hopefully this can generate some ideas for you like it does for me. Again, make sure to like and subscribe. We're going to be getting back up to speed with our track breakdowns and other tutorials in the next few weeks now that the course has finally been released. But thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you next time.